What's better than 1, 2, 3, or even 4 cameras? Well, 5 tops all of that. There's a brand new Android phone coming to the market on October 18th, and isn't just the months from like August to October like fun filled with all these smartphones. You got OnePlus, you got the Note 9, you got Pixel 3, you got the new iPhones, you got the LG V40, so many new phones. And the special one about this one, it comes with 5 cameras. Yes, count them. 2 on the front and 3 in the back. And I personally think this is the perfect setup, and Apple should have kind of done this year with their brand new phones. And I don't know what Pixel's still doing with the Pixel 3 only having 2 cameras. The LG V40 is already classified as one of the most underrated phones, but what I hear every single time LG releases a phone that their phone is the most under the radar phone. Well, it is under the radar always, because it's just not the best, but it's also not the cheapest. LG is just one of those phone companies that just sits in the middle with innovation. They don't do anything too much, and they don't do anything less than the facts. 5 cameras isn't that innovational. I'm sure all of these companies can do it. They just don't want the price tag to go along with those 5 cameras. And most people don't even know what their second dual camera does. They're like, oh, it does portrait mode and what else? I feel like there's some companies out there that just put a second camera just to say that they got a second camera. You know, the OnePlus 6 isn't optical zoom. It's just a second monochrome camera just to help with some data. Yeah, right, OnePlus. I'm a fan of what OnePlus makes. They make cheap phones with great value, but that second dual camera, we wonder what that actually does. Does OnePlus add that camera because of the whole title dual camera, or is there actually functionality behind that? And that's the question with this brand new LG V40. It has 5 cameras. 5. But that statement right there begs the question, do you ever need any more than 2 cameras? I know some people that will be fine with like 1 camera or even 0 cameras. Some people don't take photos at all. So do you need 5 cameras on a smartphone? Of course not. You could do just fine with 2, but 5? Alright, the more the merrier. And the reason that smartphones have more than 1 camera, because you see on these DSLRs and these professional cameras, they only have 1 camera. And if you're familiar with the photography space, well, that's because you could put lenses on that camera sensor. You could put different lenses such as like a telephoto, which like zooms in completely. You could put different focal lengths of prime lenses. You could put zoom lenses that zoom out and then zoom in. Yeah, the capability of lenses is something that you don't have on a smartphone camera because the sensor is just so small. So on the back of the V40, this is where I go over all of the camera specs. The first wide angle camera is a 12 megapixel main sensor with optical image stabilization with an aperture of 1.5, similar to the Samsung S9. The second camera that's found on the back is the one that's the telephoto. That's the one that's going to allow you for 2 times optical zoom. This telephoto camera is 12 megapixels with an aperture of 2.4. And the third camera is a super wide camera at 16 megapixels with an aperture of 1.7. So you have 3 different focal lengths on the back, which I think is like useful in my mind. And on the front, you have 2 cameras. The main shooter is just a regular framing. This one is a 8 megapixel camera with an aperture of 1.9. And the second one is a little bit wider, and this one's 5 megapixels with an aperture of 2.2. Now that I got all those camera specs onto the paper, let me tell you what the phone software can do to take advantage, to take maximum position on all of those different focal lengths. The answer to the question on what the phone's camera software can do is not much different than what a dual camera back-facing camera could do. It's pretty much the same thing. You're gonna get that portrait mode, and then you're just gonna have the ability to take pictures at those different focal lengths. But I'll admit it, one little cool feature that you could do with the LG V40 is that you could actually take pictures with all 3 different focal lengths at one single time. So if you just scroll through your camera modes and you go to triple shot and you just click that shutter button, well, you just took 3 different photos. It takes a little bit to process, but you just took 3 different photos at one single time. This is something useful if you're interested in photography, because 3 different focal lengths at one time, you get to see what the wide angle looks like, just the standard viewed, and the telephoto looks like, with different views. All the headlines with the LG V40 ThinQ is all about those 5 cameras. We got 5 cameras over here, 5 cameras over here, 5 cameras over here, but camera isn't the only part of a smartphone. We have display, we have battery life, we have other features, many parts and many components into going to a great smartphone. We even have to factor in the price on whether or not this is a good phone or not, especially for the value. And well, this phone is going to start at a price of $900, and I just can't see anyone buying this phone when you could buy an iPhone XR or a Samsung S9 for around $750. I don't want to scare any potential LG V40 ThinQ lovers, which is just not a good name by the way, but there's better options out there, and especially with the OnePlus 6T just coming around the corner, and that's supposed to have like a water drop notch. Ooh, that's gonna look good. But with all these great cheaper phones, and you could even go down to $300 with the Pocophone F1, and that's 3 times less than this $900 price tag for the V40 ThinQ. With the price tag of the V40, you're putting it into the Oppo Find X, the Note 9, and kind of the iPhone XS Max and XS territory. You don't really want to do that. Going back to a point earlier in this video, LG is just kind of the middle of the road in innovation. People don't get excited about what LG is releasing. Sure, their boombox stereo speaker experience is super nice. Sure, you got 5 cameras. Sure, you got water resistance, wireless charging, probably customizable button for the Google Assistant. You still have a super high quality headphone jack. You have USB-C. I could go on and on all these premium features that the LG V40 ThinQ has. In the end, the question is, are you going to buy the smartphone? And the answer to that is probably not, because there are better deals out there, and if you want to spend $900, just spend about $100 more to get the Note 9 or the Find X or a XS. That's all going to do, I think, slightly better than this phone right here. Don't get me wrong, this LG phone is perfect on paper. It's got the Snapdragon 845, it's got all those premium features as a 6.4-inch Quad HD OLED display. It's edge to edge with a notch, which is good or bad. It's got everything on paper, but when you compare it to the composition and what you're getting for the money, it's just not worth it. And not even to mention the little chin on the V40. Like, when you're gonna put a notch, at least remove the chin on a smartphone. Remove the chin bezel, for gosh sakes. Companies love to have an edge-to-edge display, even with a notch, yet they don't remove the bottom bezel, which I call the chin. I'd love your opinion about the LG V40 ThinQ in the comment section below. Like the video to make YouTube happy. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And I will see you tomorrow for the latest